Rain hammered against the studio windows like an endless applause for something no one wanted to celebrate. Jungkook stood frozen in the middle of the empty room, chest rising and falling unevenly, eyes glassy as the echo of Taehyung's voice replayed inside his mind, words that shattered the silence more than any scream ever could. "I don't think I can trust him anymore," Taehyung had said, calm, controlled, but deadly. Jungkook's breath hitched. The phrase had slipped through a thin door left ajar, a private conversation he was never meant to hear. For a moment, the air turned thick, too heavy for his lungs to bear. He pressed his back against the cold mirror wall, feeling the vibration of his own heartbeat trembling through his body. His throat burned, his palms clenched, and in one sudden, unguarded second, his knees gave way. He collapsed, his reflection shattering into fragments of someone he no longer recognized. The studio, once filled with music and laughter, now felt like a tomb. The faint hum of the speakers, the sterile scent of sweat and disinfectant, everything that used to ground him, now mocked him. Jungkook buried his face in his hands. The tears came silently at first, like an apology he couldn't speak. Then louder, he gasped, his body folding in on itself as if trying to hide from the sound of Taehyung's voice echoing in his head. "Trust him?" The words repeated, distorted, cruel. He wanted to believe it was a misunderstanding, that maybe Taehyung had been misheard, that maybe it wasn't about him. But the truth clawed at his chest. The pain wasn't from betrayal alone. It was from knowing that somewhere along the way, he might have been the one to cause it. Jungkook had always been the perfectionist, the one who stayed behind after rehearsals, who smiled when he was tired, who laughed when his heart wasn't in it. But Taehyung saw through it. Always. The way Taehyung used to linger after everyone left, sitting cross-legged on the floor, watching Jungkook with those knowing eyes. It had been comforting once. Now it haunted him. He remembered the way Taehyung had looked at him just a few days ago. A half smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You don't have to pretend all the time, Kook," he had said softly. "Not with me." But Jungkook had pretended. He always did. Pretended that the fame didn't isolate him, that the pressure didn't suffocate him, that he wasn't afraid of being left behind. And maybe that pretense had built walls too high even for Taehyung to climb. Lightning flashed through the glass. Jungkook lifted his head, his face streaked with tears. He could still hear the faint echo of laughter from the hallway. Staff voices, distant and unaware that somewhere inside, a world was collapsing. He dragged himself to the corner, back pressed to the wall, trying to steady his breathing. Memories flooded in. Their first tour, the late-night ramen, the inside jokes only they understood. He remembered the night Taehyung had found him on the rooftop after a bad performance, trembling with frustration. "You're more than perfect," Taehyung had said then, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You're human. That's what makes you beautiful." That memory hurt the most, because it belonged to a time when they still saw each other clearly. Now everything was blurred. Faces, words, intentions. The trust between them, once effortless, had become fragile glass. The door opened suddenly. Jungkook flinched. A shadow filled the frame. Min Yoongi, silent as always, his eyes sharp with concern. "You're still here," he said quietly. "It's almost midnight." Jungkook didn't answer. He wiped his face roughly, as if erasing evidence of his weakness. Yoongi studied him for a moment, then glanced at the mirror, at the reflection of a boy who looked broken beneath the fluorescent light. "Did something happen?" Yoongi's voice softened. Jungkook tried to speak, but his voice cracked. "Hyung," he swallowed hard. "Did Taehyung say something about me?" Yoongi's expression shifted. A flicker of surprise, hesitation, pity. "You heard that?" Jungkook's silence was answer enough. Yoongi sighed, stepping closer. "He didn't mean it like that. He's just confused, tired. You both are." But Jungkook shook his head, eyes dark with something deeper than sadness. "He meant it," he whispered. I could hear it in his voice. Yoongi hesitated before crouching beside him. "Kook, you need to rest. Talk to him tomorrow. Don't let one sentence destroy what you've built together." But Jungkook's mind was far from rest. The world that had felt like theirs, the unspoken bond, the wordless understanding now felt fragile. He wasn't sure if he wanted to face Taehyung again, not when the truth had already cut this deep. When Yoongi left, the studio was silent once more. Jungkook sat alone, surrounded by his own reflection. He traced the outline of his hand on the floor, as if trying to hold onto something real. The tears had stopped, but the ache remained. Heavy, suffocating, endless, he whispered to himself, so quietly that even the rain outside couldn't hear. "Why did you stop believing in me, Tae?" The storm outside grew louder, as if answering him with a fury he couldn't contain within his chest. Jungkook closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, he wished the music would stop, because every note, every rhythm, every sound reminded him of the one person whose voice he no longer knew how to face. The next morning came quietly, but the silence was deceptive. Seoul's skyline shimmered in the early sun, yet inside the HYB building, tension pulsed like static in the air. Jungkook hadn't slept. The dark circles under his eyes weren't just from exhaustion. They were from replaying Taehyung's voice in his mind over and over, like a wound he couldn't stop touching. The elevator ride to the practice room felt longer than usual. He leaned against the metal wall, hoodie pulled over his head, earbuds in but no music playing. He didn't want sound, he wanted stillness. But stillness refused to come. As the doors slid open, the familiar scent of the practice room hit him, the faint trace of cologne, disinfectant, and the earthy smell of sweat-soaked wood. The others were already there, stretching, talking, pretending everything was normal. Jungkook caught sight of Taehyung sitting by the window, head bowed, fingers tapping absently against his phone. Their eyes met for less than a second. It was enough. Jungkook's stomach twisted. "Morning," Namjoon greeted, glancing between them, sensing something unsaid but choosing not to press. "Morning," Jungkook replied automatically, voice flat. He dropped his bag and began warming up in silence. Music filled the room, a track they'd been rehearsing for days. Jungkook knew every beat, every movement. His body obeyed like muscle memory, but his mind wasn't there. Each lyric felt heavier now, every harmony hollow. Across the mirror, he could see Taehyung dancing, smooth, graceful, but distant. There was no spark, no shared rhythm like before. Halfway through the song, Jungkook missed a step. He recovered instantly, but Namjoon noticed. "Take 5, the leader said gently. The group dispersed. Hoseok shot Jungkook a worried glance. Jimin looked between him and Taehyung with quiet unease. Jungkook sat down, towel over his face, trying to breathe through the knot in his chest. But when he lowered the towel, Taehyung was standing there, close enough to touch, yet miles away. "Can we talk?" Taehyung's voice was soft, almost fragile. Jungkook froze. "Now? Please." The word cut through him. Against his better judgment, Jungkook nodded. They stepped outside into the empty hallway, where the sound of the rain from last night had been replaced by the low hum of air conditioning. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them was no longer comfortable. It was sharp, slicing through the air. "You heard me last night," Taehyung finally said. Jungkook's throat tightened. "So it was about me." Taehyung exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. "It wasn't supposed to sound like that, but it did." Jungkook's voice trembled despite his attempt to stay calm. "You said you couldn't trust me." Taehyung looked up, eyes shadowed. "Do you want the truth? I think I deserve it." For a long moment, Taehyung just stared at him, and Jungkook almost wished he wouldn't answer. "I said that because I don't recognize you anymore," Taehyung said finally. "You've been shutting everyone out, smiling for the cameras, laughing for the fans, pretending you're okay. But when it's just us, it's like you're somewhere else. I tried to reach you, but you keep disappearing." The words hit Jungkook like a blow. "So instead of asking what's wrong, you decided I couldn't be trusted? It's not that simple." "Then make it simple," Jungkook snapped, voice echoing down the hall. "Do you think I wanted to become like this? You think I enjoy pretending?" Taehyung flinched, but didn't look away. Then tell me what's really going on, Kook. Why are you so scared of letting anyone in? Jungkook opened his mouth, but no words came. He had 1,000 answers. Fear of failure, guilt of success, the crushing loneliness that fame never cured. But none of them could escape his throat. He looked down, fists trembling. Taehyung sighed. I'm not your enemy. Then stop treating me like one, Jungkook whispered. They stood there, breathing the same air yet worlds apart. The hallway lights flickered slightly, and in that fragile moment, Jungkook realized how exhausted they both were. From pretending, from misunderstanding, from carrying more than anyone should. The door behind them opened. Yoongi appeared, arms crossed. We're starting again, he said quietly, eyes flicking between the two. He didn't ask. He just knew. Back inside, the rehearsal resumed, but the tension had shifted. Every move, every glance, was charged with unspoken emotion. During the bridge, Taehyung's voice cracked slightly on a high note, and Jungkook instinctively turned toward him. Their eyes met again, raw, unguarded. For a heartbeat, something familiar flickered between them, but it vanished just as quickly. When practice ended, everyone left one by one. Jungkook lingered, packing slowly, hoping Taehyung would say something, anything. But Taehyung only looked at him once before walking away. No words, no explanation, just the quiet sound of retreating footsteps that echoed louder than any argument. That night, Jungkook sat alone in his apartment, the city lights casting fractured reflections across the window. He scrolled through his phone, their old photos, the videos, the laughter. He lingered on one. Taehyung grinning, arm around his shoulder, the two of them bathed in stage light. It felt like another lifetime that he typed a message. Tae, can we start over? But never sent it. His thumb hovered over the screen, then pressed delete. He leaned back, closing his eyes, letting the silence swallow him whole. Somewhere deep down, a part of him still believed that what they had wasn't gone, just lost in the noise. But the question remained, heavy and unspoken. Was it too late to find it again? Outside, the rain began to fall once more, soft, relentless, familiar, and Jungkook whispered into the quiet, as if Taehyung could somehow hear him across the distance. I miss you. The world outside looked ordinary, but to Jungkook, everything felt like glass about to shatter. The following evening, the group was scheduled for a live broadcast to celebrate their anniversary with fans. It should have been simple. Laughter, stories, music. Yet beneath the polished smiles and bright studio lights, Jungkook's chest throbbed with unspoken words. He hadn't slept again. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Taehyung's expression in the hallway, that quiet disappointment that felt more painful than anger. He arrived early, dressed in black jeans and a loose white shirt. The makeup artist dabbed concealer under his tired eyes, but no amount of makeup could erase the fatigue in his gaze. He avoided looking at Taehyung's reflection in the mirror beside him. Let's make tonight easy, Namjoon said, trying to sound cheerful. Just have fun. The fans have missed seeing all of us together. Easy. Jungkook almost laughed. Nothing about tonight would be easy. When the cameras went live, the room transformed. Lights brightened, smiles clicked into place, voices lifted. Millions of fans flooded the comment section instantly, hearts and emojis filling the screen. Jungkook played his role well, laughing at Jimin's jokes, nodding when Hoseok teased him. But his laughter sounded rehearsed, hollow. Then came the inevitable, the fans' questions. Who's been closest these days? Namjoon read aloud, grinning. Classic question. Hoseok chuckled. It changes all the time, right? Not for me, Taehyung said suddenly, his tone light but his eyes unreadable. I think I've grown closer to Jungkook lately. The room went still for a fraction of a second. Too brief for the audience to notice, but long enough for Jungkook to feel his stomach drop that he smiled quickly, pretending it didn't sting. Really? Jungkook beats everyone now. Yoongi shrugged awkwardly, muttering, Don't drag me into this. The members laughed, tension dissolving on the surface. But Jungkook's fingers tightened around the mic. Taehyung's gaze met his, steady and cold. Sometimes it's easier to talk to someone who listens. The comment sliced through him. It sounded casual, but Jungkook heard the undertone. The fans didn't. They flooded the chat with laughter and heart emojis, oblivious to the storm building beneath the surface. Namjoon changed the subject smoothly, but Jungkook's pulse wouldn't calm. Every word after that blurred together, the music talk, the memories, the fake cheer. When the broadcast finally ended, Jungkook could barely breathe as the staff began clearing the set. He stood abruptly, removing his mic. "I'm taking some air," he muttered. No one stopped him, except Taehyung. "Jungkook," he called, low but firm. Jungkook paused, back turned. "What?" Taehyung walked closer, stopping a few feet behind him. "That look on your face. Don't pretend it didn't mean something." Jungkook spun around, anger flashing in his eyes. "What do you want me to say, Taehyung? You humiliate me in front of millions of fans, and now you want me to just smile." "I didn't humiliate you," Taehyung shot back. "You're twisting everything I say." "I'm twisting it because you've stopped talking to me like you used to." Jungkook's voice rose, echoing off the studio walls. "Every time I try to fix this, you pull further away." Taehyung's jaw clenched. "Maybe I'm tired of being the one who always tries." The silence that followed was deafening. Jungkook's hands trembled. He wanted to scream, to break something, to make Taehyung understand that he wasn't cold, just lost. But the words refused to come out. "You don't get it?" Jungkook whispered finally, his voice breaking. "I'm scared, Tae. Every time I get close to someone, I lose them. I can't." He trailed off, chest heaving. "I can't lose you too." Taehyung's expression softened for a moment, barely noticeable, then hardened again. "Then stop pushing me away." And with that, he turned and walked out. Jungkook stood there alone, the studio lights dimming around him. His reflection in the glass looked fragile. The image of someone pretending to be fine while cracking inside. That he sat on the edge of the stage, head buried in his hands. The faint buzz of fans' voices still echoed in his mind, snippets of laughter replaying from moments earlier. He wondered if anyone out there could see the truth behind their smiles. A soft knock broke the silence. Jimin stepped inside, hesitant. "Kook, are you okay?" Jungkook didn't look up. "Do I look okay?" Jimin exhaled and sat beside him. "You know, sometimes I think both of you are saying the same thing, just in different languages." Jungkook frowned. "What do you mean?" "You both miss each other," Jimin said quietly. "But you're too proud to admit it." The words lingered like smoke. Jungkook stared at the floor. "Maybe we broke something that can't be fixed." Jimin shook his head. "If it was that easy to break, it wouldn't have meant anything." The simplicity of that hit him harder than he expected. He stayed there long after Jimin left, letting the words echo in his mind. When the building finally went quiet, he pulled out his phone. His hands hovered over Taehyung's name in the contact list, thumb shaking. He typed again, "Let's talk." No cameras this time. And this time he pressed send. The message was delivered. "Read." But no reply came. Outside, thunder rumbled again, distant but approaching. Jungkook turned toward the sound, feeling it vibrate through the glass. The storm wasn't over. It was only gathering strength. And somewhere across the city, Taehyung stared at the same message on his phone. Heart pounding, unsure whether to answer or finally let go. The night felt endless. Seoul's skyline glimmered under silver rain, each droplet tracing a trembling reflection of the city's light. Jungkook sat in his car outside Taehyung's apartment, fingers gripping the steering wheel so tightly that his knuckles turned white. The message he'd sent hours ago still had no reply, but something inside him refused to go home. That he didn't want distance. Not anymore. When Taehyung finally appeared, hood up, hands in pockets, walking down the quiet street, Jungkook's breath hitched. For a moment, the years of friendship, laughter, and music flickered before his eyes. Then the pain came flooding back. Taehyung stopped when he saw the car. His posture tensed, but he didn't turn away. Slowly, Jungkook stepped out, the soft sound of rain filling the silence between them. "You came?" Jungkook said quietly. Taehyung's voice was calm but guarded. You told me to. For a long while, neither spoke. The rain pooled around their shoes, reflecting the dim streetlights. Then Jungkook took a step closer. Why didn't you reply? I didn't know what to say. Then say anything, Jungkook said, voice trembling. Scream, curse, whatever. Just stop pretending you don't care. Taehyung's eyes flickered with pain. You think I don't care? I've spent months caring too much. His tone cracked, a rawness that broke through his calm exterior. I watched you burn yourself out, lie to the fans, lie to us, lie to yourself. And every time I tried to reach you, you smiled like everything was fine.